most of the time, you can't just bridge this gap by simply piling on more information, giving them more knowledge, bombarding them with all of the stuff. But instead, it's by delivering some mindset shift. It's about showing them, getting them to think differently about this thing that is holding them back. Welcome to Imperfect Action. I'm Steph Taylor. For years, I read all the books, downloaded all the freebies, and did all the courses. But it wasn't until I started taking imperfect action that my business had its first $1 million year. Imperfect action is about doing things before you're ready, prioritizing consistent action over perfect action, and moving forward, even when you're not sure you're doing it right. On this show, you can expect mindset advice, actionable marketing tips, and strategies to build a business that brings you more profit, more freedom, and even more joy. Are you on the list to get my daily Biz Boosters? Every day, I'll send you a bite-sized prompt designed to help you grow your business in a more intentional way. Sign up at stephtaylor.co/DBB or at the link in the show notes. Hey, welcome back to Imperfect Action. This is episode 674. Today is an Ask Steph episode where I get to answer one of my listener-submitted questions. I love these episodes and I love reading the questions that you submit. Even if I don't always answer every single one of them on this show, please always keep submitting your questions because sometimes questions come through where I'm like, I never even thought that anybody would be interested in this. And then it inspires me to either record an episode answering your question or create a slightly different solo episode where I'm still answering that question, but in the context of something else business related. So if you do have a question that you would like me to answer on the show, you can submit that at stephtaylor.co/asksteph. That's all one word, Ask Steph. And there's a form there. You can pop your question in and it puts it into my list of potential podcast topics straight away. And then I can go through, I look through them, and I create episodes like this one. Now, today's question is from Elise, and the question is, what is a good strategy or method for developing the right lead magnet for a particular offer? Is it something that helps bridge the magician's gap or something else? Should I have multiple lead magnets for the same offer, even if it's the first time I'm launching it? Okay, we're going to touch on a few things in today's episode, including the magician's gap concept slightly, because I know that if you're new here, it's probably a new concept to you. It's something I talk about quite a lot. And it's one of the biggest things that I believe underpins marketing and sales strategy, regardless of what you are selling and how you are selling it. I teach it mainly in the context of live launches, where you are live launching an online course or program or a membership. But it's so relevant if you're selling services. It's relevant regardless of how you are selling, if it's a live launch or something else. So I'm going to kick this off with a little story about my most popular lead magnet ever and why I ended up retiring it. So back in 2017, people started doing this really cool thing with their Instagram feed where each image would fit together in the grid so that it looked like this, like the whole grid looked like this beautiful collage or like a beautiful puzzle. Like they kind of went over the edges of each image into the next image. It looked really pretty. When somebody landed on your Instagram grid, your Instagram profile, and they saw all of these images, it looked really cool. So I then wrote a blog post on how to create an Instagram puzzle feed. And because nobody else had written a blog post about it, it got a lot of organic traffic. It ranked really well in Google and it got a lot of organic traffic. So then I thought, well, let me capitalize on all of this traffic that I'm getting to this page. And I created a little freebie template. I created a little template to help people create their own puzzle feed in Photoshop. This was now before Canva was super popular. Canva was a thing, but it wasn't really popular yet. So I created this free template people could download, a free Photoshop file that they could use. And it got thousands of downloads. Thousands of downloads. And I was so pleased with myself because these people were giving me their email address to download the template, and I was building this email list. But I pretty quickly realized that these people were not my ideal clients. They were never going to buy any of my offers because I was teaching marketing for business owners. And these people who had bought this template weren't really that interested in marketing. They were just interested in having a pretty Instagram feed. And it wasn't until I started creating more offer-specific lead magnets that I realized that the best lead magnets aren't necessarily the ones that get the most downloads, but rather they're the ones that A, attract the right people, and B, move them closer to buying from you. So where I see a lot of online business owners going wrong with their lead magnets is they go at it with this goal of, I want to create the lead magnet that's going to be super sexy, super shiny, and it's going to attract as many people as possible to download it. Whereas that's not going to attract necessarily the right people. It might attract a lot of people, and you might think you've got a massive email list, but then that list might not convert that well when you sell to them. Another place where online business owners go wrong is creating a lead magnet that is what they, as the expert, know their ideal client needs, but that isn't something their ideal client is actually looking for or actually wants right now. Another place you can go wrong is not communicating why someone should download your lead magnet. So on the landing page, there's no real emphasis on why should this person care? Why should the person who is reading this page care enough about this lead magnet to download it? The other place you can go wrong is jam-packing your lead magnet with lots of information. This is pretty overwhelming, and it's probably not going to move your ideal client closer to buying. I know it feels really counterintuitive when we're like, oh, like the more information I can give them, the more value I'm going to give them. And then they're going to be like, wow, if this is how much value is in her free stuff, imagine how much value is in the paid thing. But lots of info doesn't mean lots of value. We can deliver a lot of value without bombarding them with a lot of information. Another place where you might go wrong is not thinking about where your lead magnet fits in with your launch strategy. Or if you're not live launching, not thinking about how it fits in with your sales strategy, your sales process. If you're just thinking of it as, oh, this is how I grow my list, but you're not thinking of it as this is how it's helping me to sell, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity there. And then the final big mistake that I see happening a lot is teaching a lot in the lead magnet rather than delivering those key mindset shifts that are going to help your ideal client to bridge the magician's gap. And the magician's gap is really, at its most basic definition, it's the gap between where your ideal client is right now and where they need to be ready to buy. I'm deep diving the magician's gap in a free waitlist only event in a couple of weeks' time, and I'll be teaching module 1 of Launch Magic for free live on Zoom. But you need to be on the Launch Magic waitlist to get an invite, and it is going to be limited to 100 people only. So you want to make sure you're on the waitlist and that when you see that invite, you sign up pretty quickly. There's not going to be a replay. So if you want to get on the waitlist, send me a DM on Instagram. I'm there at stephtaylor.co. Send me the DM magic, just the word magic, nothing else. Or you can visit stephtaylor.co/magic and you'll find the waitlist sign up page there as well. Okay, so when I talked about the two things that really make a lead magnet effective, it's the ones that attract the right people and that move them closer to buying from you. So when I talk about attracting the right people, this isn't about attracting a number of people, a quantity of people, but it's about attracting those people who are the perfect fit for your offer, the people who will take action, who will get the desired results, who will become your raving fans. And the very first step to attracting the right people is getting crystal clear on who your ideal client is. And not just who they are in the sense of demographics. This is where, people go to identify their ideal client and they're like, oh, well, she's 35 years old and she lives in Australia. But that doesn't really mean that much because the fact that she's 35 years old and lives in Australia probably isn't a characteristic that's going to determine whether she takes action and gets results. Instead, think about what is going on in their life. What are they struggling with as it relates to the offers that you are selling? What words are they using to describe their struggles? What else have they tried to solve this problem? Right? Get really clear on who this right person is and what is going on in their mind and in their world. And chances are there is some kind of small win that you can help them to achieve in your lead magnet, a small win that's going to be really enticing for them to download and that will move them closer to buying from you at the same time. And then the second part is moving them closer to buying from you. So like I said, there's a gap, a magician's gap, where your audience is right now, your ideal client is right now, and where we need them to be ready to buy. So what I mean by that is there's going to be a bunch of things that your ideal client currently believes about the problem that your offer solves and about themselves and about the solution to their problem. They have these beliefs around themselves, the solution, the problem. And there are things that they need to believe about the problem, the solution, and themselves before they'll be ready to buy. For example, if somebody is wanting to do their very first online course launch and they believe that they are not techie enough to do a launch because there's too much tech involved. Until they believe that it is possible for somebody to launch without having a lot of tech skills or tech savvy, they're not going to ever buy. They're not going to ever buy Launch Magic because they don't believe it's possible for them to have that launch. So then it becomes my role to show somebody how you can actually launch even if you're not super tech savvy, because we're really lucky these days that the tech we have makes it really easy, really simple. And most of the time, you can't just bridge this gap by simply piling on more information, giving them more knowledge, bombarding them with all of the stuff. But instead, it's by delivering some mindset shift. It's about showing them, getting them to think differently about this thing that is holding them back. And that usually requires some kind of implementation or some kind of practical application, maybe some kind of workbook or some actions, some homework for them to implement what they have learned in your lead magnet. Now, the final part of your question, Elise, was should you have multiple lead magnets for the same offer if it's your first launch? And I believe if it's your first launch, keep it simple, okay? You can have just one for this first launch, and then the next time you launch, you might experiment and try creating a different lead magnet, and you can test the two. You can see which one performs better. And I just want to note here that I don't count a webinar as a lead magnet. So if you're teaching a live webinar in your launch, that is not a lead magnet in the terms of lead magnet that I'm talking about here. Your webinar has a completely different strategy. It is there to sell your offer. Your lead magnet is there to grow your email list and nurture your audience closer to buying so that when they attend that webinar or when you open doors, they are ready to buy. So I would still have a webinar as well as a lead magnet in that first launch. All right, so there you have it. The two key parts of a lead magnet for a particular offer. Make sure that it's attracting the right people and make sure that it's moving them closer to buying from you. And if you want to get on that wait list for the free Magician's Gap Launch Magic Module 1 event that's happening at the end of July, pop on over to Instagram and send me a DM at stephtayler.co. Send me the word magic and it'll prompt you to pop your email address in and we can get you on the wait list. Otherwise, you can head to stephtayler.co/magic and you'll find the waitlist page over there. If you're not already subscribed to the show, make sure you hit the little plus button in Apple Podcasts or follow in Spotify. And it just means you'll get each new episode straight to your podcast app every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as the episodes are released. Thank you so much for listening. Catch you next time.